We have the update 34 patch notes for the Lord of the Rings Online, and of course the big thing coming in this update is the Before the Shadow mini expansion, but there are also a lot of other really exciting changes coming in the update. I should point out this patch is scheduled for later today from when this video is uploaded, and the server should be up by 1 p.m. Eastern, and that is standard time now. So just for reference, all of the Before the Shadow content, which includes 2 new low-level zones, it also includes the new Delving system and a new skirmish, and eventually we'll have a 6-man instance. All of that you will have to buy the Before the Shadow mini expansion to play through that, but again, there are a lot of other changes to get to today. So starting off with the Before the Shadow, and what that is, basically it's a new low-level experience offered in the game, and we'll have 2 new zones for level 1 to 32 and has a story. And it actually preludes the current low-level experience that we have before this update, at least. Along with that, there's the new Delving system where you get to increase the difficulty of the Before the Shadow missions, and with the increased difficulty you can get better rewards, but this is only available for level cap players. And for the first time in many years, there is a new skirmish coming to LOTRO, so this one will have some modern loot systems that is perhaps comparable to what you see in regular instances and dungeons added to the game the past few updates and expansions. The skirmish, like all others, will scale starting from level 20 to the level cap, and you can do it in solo, duo, small fellowship, that's 3-man, 6-man, or 12-man version, and it has up to 3 tiers of difficulty. You will have to run the skirmish intro to run the Before the Shadow skirmish though. And the other major feature of the expansion is going to be a 6-man instance, which is not going to be available at the launch of the expansion, but will be coming at a later date in a couple to few weeks, and that one is going to be called Sarkvorn the Black Grave. So when you make a new character in LOTRO now, you will be presented with some new options to either choose what's the new Mossword experience, which is going to be the one with Before the Shadow, or the original tutorial and starter instances that your characters would normally go through. Now, there is a whole lot going on here, but this is where we get to non-expansion specific content coming with the update 34. The very first thing, and one of the big highlights for me, I made a whole video about it, is the Clash trait point change. So with this, an important note is that your character trait points will be reset when you log into the game, so you will have to redo your specialization and how you have your trait set out. This could be a good opportunity for you to redo your spec. So ultimately with this, you may notice that you have a different amount of trait points than before, but what ultimately is going to matter is that you will have 98 trait points at level 140, and you'll just be granted your trait points for leveling from now on. A LOTRO player named Viewerhar here on the forum shared how many trait points you get at different levels if you are curious with this table. And kind of shifting gears, something that I thought was interesting is this nice quality of life change for how damage over time and healing over time is displayed on the tooltip. It will now be displayed at its regular interval. And with this, there are a whole lot of clash changes. A lot of these changes are going to be minor, but we do have some more significant changes to, again, minor aspects of class, but to the Brawler and Burglar, those are to the two most notable classes, as well as the Lore Master, who actually had a change to Wizard's Fire. They now have a skill called Wizard's Frost, and then you can get Wizard's Fire if you go into the red line. Wizard's Frost is similar to the old version of Wizard's Fire you would have had, and now Wizard's Fire, if you spec into the red line, will have a little bit of additional effects. Another note for the Beorning is going to be that the dual wielding and two-handed weapons should now do similar damage for their skills, which is going to be a pretty significant change where two-handed weapons were basically always better than dual wield when in bear form. So maybe now dual wielding on a Beorning will be more viable, especially for DPS. I'm excited to see how that actually looks in game. As far as Burglar goes, there are a lot of different quality of life changes in addition to more impactful changes with combat. The first area is going to be with stealth and all the different versions of stealth. There has been some cleanup there, it looks like. The other more significant changes that we see to the Burglar are the way that skills work. They will now all be fast. So assuming that works consistently as other fast skills in the game, you might notice some less time between animations, or less animation delay as it's called. Along with changes to reveal weakness, the other more major aspect of the changes to Burglar is with their AoEs. The AoEs, you will now have to target an enemy, but the AoE effect of that enemy that you're targeting will now be spread around that target, instead of just like a frontal AoE for double-edged strike and flashing blades. You may also remember the Minstrel recently got a pretty big revamp with the removal of its yellow specialization and a lot of changes to anthems and of course surrounding mechanics. Well, they have been still tweaking the Minstrel, and in this patch we will see notably that anthems have their duration extended even more, and in Melody Stance you can extend the duration of anthems as well now. Now, other things you may notice in this long list of class changes is for a lot of the classes, there have been some consistency fixes for what counts as skill deeds. So even though you no longer get trait points from your skill deeds, your class deeds, you still actually have those deeds in game, and they've just fixed up a lot of what works for them or what should work for them now actually should work for them in game after this update. The next set of changes we have are the PvMP, or specifically monster player changes, and as you all know, I don't play PvMP too much, so as far as I know, the big highlight for the PvMP update is going to be this new blessings mechanic that's going to be clan blessing, and that is for the monster player side. And I believe these give you, well, it says even here it gives him and I permanent enhancements, but basically gives buffs to your character. For the free people side, there have been other adjustments as well, including some updates to the armor, so if you're interested in PvMP, there are some things to definitely check out in this update. And as we get into the quest and instances section, there's actually another big highlight for this patch, and that's going to be the quest tracker. So for the longest time in LOTRO, the quest tracker has only been able to hold 5 quests at once. Well, now it will be able to hold up 10 quests. That's double what it used to be, and you can track 10 quests at once now. A very big quality of life change for a game that often gives you more than 5 quests at once, so you can explore and roam around and quest with more ease. As you will see, there are a lot of other quest fixes, but there is actually a really notable highlight in this section, again with session play. So there are a lot of session play quests in LOTRO, but many players, such as myself, do not enjoy them, and there are odd scaling issues that can make certain ones be like just very tedious to do, they take a long time, or they're even very short, but then it kind of feels pointless to do it. So with a lot of these session play quests in the game, they're now going to be optional. As it says here, following formerly mandatory quests have been given this treatment where you can interact with a shortened account book to just advance the quest instead. Honestly, I would love to see this system expanded to some of the longer book quests that have you go in an instance and just watch text float over NPC's head. That way, if you don't want that visual experience, you can read it at your own pace. This section just keeps on giving and giving, but the next one is going to be with the writing trait. Now, there has been a lot of confusion. I've seen some people just say like every character gets the writing trait, and that's not exactly true, but essentially the writing trait will be free for characters now. So at the very least with this update, every new character in the game can get the writing trait for free, which is what you need to write a mount. This quest will also give you a mount. So the quest A Little Extra Never Hurts Part 2 will give you the writing skill, and it will give you a little mount to start off. This is something that can be completed on every new character that you make in any of the starter areas. That would be Archit, Ear of the Wind, or Mossword is going to be the new one now. Now, the concern is, of course, what happens to people that already have characters and maybe don't have the writing trait and want to go back and get it for free instead of like buying it with LOTRO points or doing the level 20 quest if you happen to be a VIP. Well, from player reports from the beta, you can actually go back on a high-level character and go to Mossword and get the writing trait if you do not already have it. But that is just reports from beta, and of course things can change from beta, so we do not know 100% until this update goes live. But just in case there are some issues with the writing trait, I did want to clarify because again, I have seen a lot of confusion and questions regarding how this works. And perhaps even clarification in the next line if you do want a little extra mount, which is just the starter mount that you would get from that quest on a new character. You can get that from Mithril coins, presumably Mithril coins, but at least you can get it from the Mithril trader in the starter areas, which will expand from Archit, Kellendam, and also go to Thorin's Gate and Little Delving. So we just keep on getting to exciting stuff, and I'm not actually going to start at the top of the list with Reward Track Season 4. Okay, I guess I started with this. That starts on Wednesday. That'll be November 16th at 10 a.m. But the actually exciting part, well, maybe Season 4 is exciting. I just can't catch a break here. But the actual exciting part is going to be with lag. This might seem minor at first. Okay, auto attacks can no longer advance skill deeds, but what this comes into play with is lag. The developers have talked a lot about how the quest and deed systems have been contributing, at least they suspect, contributing to a lot of the lag in the game. So with auto attacks not being able to advance skill deeds, that is something that might help optimize the game and reduce some lag with the way the skills interact with the quest and deed system. So that is definitely something that is exciting, even though it might seem very minor and kind of pointless at first. Now, there are a lot of different notes, and you probably noticed throughout this video that I've been skipping some of the more minor ones, but the reality is I'd be up here all night if I tried to just read through the entire list here. But something else that I did want to point out in this section is going to be with the level caps of certain items. You will see some older set bonuses will have the level cap implemented for the set bonuses. That said, you can still equip that armor for these old raid sets that they are doing this to, but one of the things that might impact people at level 140 at the current level cap is going to be with trigger and class essences. They're going to be adding some level caps to these essences, so they basically cannot be used for level cap current end game content. So it's kind of like the traceries, how they have a little red border around them. That means that you get no actual benefit or no effect from them, even though they are technically equipped within your weapon. It is going to be the same way with these essences now. So if you see a red box around them, that means they are doing nothing for your character. Again, there are a lot of little changes here, but the last thing I want to highlight is how this update is really focusing on the new starter experience in LOTRO. Whether you are making a new character as a new player, or just making a new character as a long-term player, or maybe you've been a returning player and just wanting to start anew, this update really seems to be focused on that starter experience. And with that, the last change to highlight is going to be just a lot of old armor, low and mid-level armor, is going to have its stats updated, so maybe that will seem a little bit more smooth transition as you level up in LOTRO, especially with all the changes they have implemented throughout the years. I know some ranges can be a bit jarring and some stats can feel very outdated on old quests, just old items in general. And actually, as I was recording this video and pulling up some extra resources for you all, the developer diary for the Delvings system has been published. So this is from Orion, who is a returning developer to the game, lead systems designer, and he has published this article all about the Delvings system. So there are a lot of interesting things and exciting things with the Delvings. I just really hope, they say number 2 here for the Delving system is that it should be evergreen, and I 100% agree that it should be evergreen. It's so sad to see so many systems in LOTRO just like they get implemented, they have some starter updates, but then they're just kind of tossed by the wayside and not really paid attention to after that. So hopefully with the Delving system, it can actually be updated and just continually progressed in the future. I do have some concerns. They say it should be extensible, and there are a lot more details presumably in this, and I know Ryan has talked about it before, about extending it to things like group instances, like regular dungeons that we play. I do have some concerns if there are 2 difficulty systems going on at once, but really that is something for the future, and we will have to see how the Delving system goes. Also, the last thing that I really have concern about, just as I am glossing over this here, is they do say time invested into the Delving system should be significant. I don't have a problem with that, but it also should be equally as rewarding. Based on my beta experience, it was not equally rewarding to the time invested, but again, we'll have to see how it is actually in the live patch, and still, there's just a lot of excitement there, and of course the tunage of that can be updated as time goes on. Anyway, I think that's enough about this developer diary, but I did just want to highlight it because it's honestly just great to see a dev diary again. I know we have had 1 or 2 in recent times, and before that had been quite a few years if I remember correctly, so it is just nice to have this piece, and thought I'd highlight it if you want to check it out. So thanks to Orion for making that, and that is going to be all I have for this video. I hope y'all are as excited as I am for update 34, the patch and the expansion and all the content with the expansion. And please let me know what you are most excited for with the update, whether it's the expansion content or some of the different changes we have in the actual patch, such as the trait point change or the quest tracking change. And with that, if you did enjoy or learn something useful, please consider liking and subscribing for more, or becoming a channel member to support the content. And thanks for watching, everyone.